So my talk today actually is sort of a combination of several things. It's a continuation of the seminar topic we had just this morning in the class. And it's something that I've been working on for a special issue, trying to also kind of fit it, as much as I can into the topic of this disciplinary workshop on contextualizing the self. So I will actually, the title now includes the case of Master Chen. So I will go in depth into one particular case study. So I will consider how courtesans practiced the arts of the male literati elite as a means to construct their professional self-identity in the competitive Qin pleasure quarters of Nanjing during the late Ming Dynasty by examining the exceptionally successful example of Marshal Chen. I will begin with some historical background to the Qin pleasure quarters before turning to focus on Ma's social and artistic life. The metropolis Nanjing, here, let's see. During the late Ming Dynasty, where Marshal Chen was active, was the locus of a moment in Chinese cultural history, when the splendor of courtesan artistic attainments came to be identified as an integral part of the refinement of elite culture itself. Marshal Chen successfully fashioned her self-image as the embodiment of high culture and marketed it by circulating her poetry and painting among her clientele throughout her life until her death at the age of 57. In particular, I will consider the significance and effect of her orchid paintings as a tool of self-representation in her life as well as her afterlife. Now, so this map, I'll come to, but in the year 1368, the peasant rebel Zhu Yuanzhang completed his defeat of the other contenders for the throne and proclaimed the Ming Dynasty, becoming the Hongwu Emperor. He drove back to the northern steppes, the Mongols, the geographical domain we call China today, under the name of the Yuan Dynasty. Having started his rebellion against Mongol rule in the Yangtze River Valley, you can see a tiny spot, known as the Jiangnan region, the Hongwu Emperor established Nanjing as the capital of his new empire, rejecting Beijing, the capital of the Mongol Yuan Dynasty. Much earlier in Chinese history, especially during the period of the Southern dynasties, from 420 to 589, Nanjing had already acquired a reputation as a sophisticated city with a beautiful environment where poetry and the arts developed and flourished. After his death, the Hongwu Emperor was buried in Nanjing, and his tomb is a major tourist site today. The third emperor, Yongle, moved the capital back to Beijing, roughly from 1415 to 1421. But Nanjing retained its status as the southern capital to the end of the Ming. It was a mirror capital with an imperial palace and complete replicated civil and military administrative structures responsible for supervising the southern and the wealthiest part of the Ming Empire. Before the capital was relocated back to Beijing, Nanjing was also the site of the metropolitan examination, the highest level in the civil service examination system. Even after the relocation, it remained the site of the triennial provincial examinations. Its large examining rooms were located near Confucius Temple on the north bank of the Qinhuai Canal. You can see the Qinhuai Canal there. Aspiring male scholars, young and old, congregated there to study and compete with the aim of gaining entry to the career path in the imperial bureaucracy, which would confer the highest social status that they could seek. These men were not only conversant with the Confucian classics, of the examination curriculum, but also with the cultural arts of the scholar literati class, especially poetry, calligraphy, and painting. Implementing the scholar literati ethos was a flourishing Courtesan culture, one which came to stand as a hallmark of late Ming elegance and sophistication. But to Orthodox scholars in the subsequent Qing dynasty, it also came to symbolize late Ming decadence. So that's Nanjing, a painting of Nanjing and a street scene. Geographically, Nanjing was situated in the affluent Lower Yangtze River Delta region, the most advanced and populous region at the time. Along with the cities of Suzhou and Hangzhou, it became one of the most important economic and cultural centers of the Ming. Nanjing developed into a high-end publishing center for fine books. In addition to a burgeoning book trade, it also had thriving markets of arts and antiques, textiles and embroidery, wine, tea, and a myriad luxury products, all manner of commodities for the enjoyment of the elite and wealthy classes. The founding Emperor Fong, who also helped to develop in Nanjing what would become the most splendid Courtesan culture that flourished in Chinese history. At the beginning of the dynasty, Hongwu established 16 official high-class brothels with female entertainers and performers trained in music, drama, poetry, and the arts. The most famous of these quarters were located side by side along the south bank of the Qinghai Canal, right across from the triennial examination compound. So you can see on this Ming dynasty map. The area came to be referred to as the Qinghai district, or the old compound, Jiuyuan, in the late Ming, a name that alludes to its esteemed history. So here is a 17th century painting of the examination compounds up there, and the canal, and then the pleasure quarters in the lower corner. The founding, registered singing girls and courtesans served at official banquets and parties, serving wine and pouring tea, chanting poetry, singing, playing music, and engaging in a variety of board games to entertain the intelligentsia and cultural elite, who also sought love and romance with these accomplished and artistically gifted women. In Chinese, these women are known as, and we're discussing that in class, Ji. So, for the best equivalent translation would be a European person, like the Venetian persons that we were talking about in class, or the Japanese station. Like these counterparts, their services were not only nor necessarily sexual. These talented persons created a lively social and cultural environment in the pleasure quarters along the Qinghai Canal district. They entertained and intermingled with patrons who were examination aspirants, wealthy merchants, artists and connoisseurs, and other kinds of means. The Qinghai district was necessarily a competitive market of sensual and aesthetic pleasures, where the most gifted courtesans created distinctive personas through specific skills in the literary as well as performing arts to enhance their visibility and allure. Marshal Zhen, so here we have, it was one of the 8 beauties of the Qinghai. So here we have her portrait, which you saw at the beginning. She was arguably the most successful of the earlier generation of Nanjing courtesans. She effectively created a self-image of a range of desirable qualities and skills, in spite of being noted as being rather ordinary in her looks. In other words, she was not a dazzling beauty. Her fame lived on after her lifetime. In a work called Banqiao Zhaji, Miscellaneous Records of Longwood Bridge, a nostalgic memoir of the Nanjing pleasure quarters written after the fall of the Ming, the literati Yu Huai regretted that he was born too late to have met Ma Shou-zhen and the early generation of famous courtesans. Much later, near the end of the Qing dynasty, Ma Shou-zhen was here lavishly commemorated in a book entitled Eight Beauties of Qinhuai, which contains imaginary portraits of these courtesans. So note that she is here portrayed holding a sprig of orchids. The orchid is a significant aspect of the persona that Ma Shou-zhen created, which I will return to later. Recent scholarship on courtesan culture has tended to focus on the younger generation of famous courtesans who lived through the fall of the Ming and the transition to the Manchu Qing dynasty, which was founded in 1644. These courtesans have carried on romantic relationships with well-known scholar officials, and some married them as concubines. And we were talking about that also in the past. The most celebrated example was courtesan Liu Shi, who had a passionate affair first with the young poet and scholar official Chen Zilong, but then ended up marrying the high official Qian Qianyi, who was more than 30 years her senior. The lives of the courtesans of the Ming-Qing transition were entangled with the complex politics and history of their age. They emerged as symbols of Ming royalism in the eyes of male scholars. Ma Shou-zhen died 40 years before the Manchu conquest. Living her life in the aesthetic realm of a high courtesan, she projected a public persona in art and poetry that impressed contemporaries as well as admirers in later periods. How did she accomplish this? Anecdotes also tell of her valiant and chivalric personality and generous patronage of young men. Right? So she herself is patronized by men, older men, she patronizes younger men. She was said to be free-spirited and relaxed. Her lifelong friendship and romance with the Suzhou literatist Wang Zhideng is also legendary. After he helped her out when she was blackmailed by a criminal earlier in her career, Ma offered herself to be his concubine, but Wang declined, saying that he would be taking advantage of her if he married her, because it would be like taking payment for the help that he gave her. Sincere or not, Wang recorded this and their lifelong friendship in a detailed biography commemorating Ma after her death. Before we examine Ma's apparent achievements, it would be useful to recall the fundamental insecurity and servitude in the lives of courtesans and prostitutes, pointed out by Paul in his study of the ambiguous images, and I circulated this article for students in the school as well. Although the most successful courtesans projected a life of glamour, the origins of these women were obscure and often humble and tragic. Being victims of the trafficking women. The majority were sold as young children to the brothels by poor parents or kidnappers. Others were women from official families whose male kin had committed serious offenses, and they were permanently enslaved by the government to work in the entertainment quarters. Yet others were born and grew up in the pleasure quarters. They were trained and educated in the requisite skills, depending on their potential talent from an early age. In a hierarchized society based on the family, the prospects of an unmarried courtesan in old age was very uncertain. Hence, many courtesans sought marriage to scholar officials or merchants as their concubines. Ma Shou-zhen was no exception. We do not know her family origin or early life. Most courtesans belonged to houses with a madame, whom they call mother, Ma, of the house. And the girls were ranked as sisters according to seniority in age. In Ma's biography, written by her paramour and friend Wang Zhideng, she was said to be the youngest of four sisters, surnamed Ma, who belonged to the same madame. So she was called Ma, the fourth maiden, Ma Siniang. Wang adds that because Ma Shou-zhen early on became expert at painting orchids, she gave herself the style name Xianglan. So we don't have that in orchid, meaning orchid of the Xiang River. We will discuss the significance of this style name in a moment. Wang Zheng also mentioned right there that Ma's nickname was Xuan Er, and her courtesy name was Yue Jiao. Some of the paintings attributed to her are signed with these other names. Adopting the style name Xiang Lan, orchid of the Xiang River, was not simply based on Ma's skill at painting orchids. Through this choice, Ma Shuzhen also publicly identified herself with the noble character of the iconic poet Xu Yuan, 4th to 3rd century BCE, revered in Chinese culture as a royal minister from the southern state of Chu, who, unappreciated and banished by his king, drowned himself in a tributary of the Xiang River in present-day Hunan province. In his classic autobiographical poem entitled Encountering Sorrow, the image of orchids acquired strong symbolic associations with inner beauty and moral self-cultivation. And these qualities are suggested in the lives correlating inner beauty with outward adornment, so dressing himself, twining water orchids in the garden, and tending to many acres of orchids as well, and then the line of the lovely hidden orchid that the outer world does not appreciate. So the term, especially the last one, hidden orchid, Youlan, or referring to orchids growing in a secluded valley, also occurs a couple of times in the South, suggesting the orchid is growing in a sheltered, quiet, and pure environment, away from vulgarity. Through literary associations, the orchid, along with several flowers and plants, was singled out as significant in both elite and popular imagination, and acquired a long and rich history of symbolic meanings in Chinese culture. So, for example, the flowering plum, Lei, which blossoms in the early winter, very early spring, while snow is still on the ground, denotes strength and integrity in adversity. At the same time, plum blossoms, of course, serve as a symbol of youth and fragile beauty. Then we have the chrysanthemum flower, and that signifies endurance because it flowers in autumn frost, but it is also associated with the reclusive and simple life of another iconic poet, Tao Qian, and his enjoyment of nature. This flower is made famous by this couplet of his. Each of these special flowers, orchid, chrysanthemum, plum, and also lotus, have rich associations with the natural seasons, with the seasons of human life and emotion, and with religion and literature. Because of their fragrance and loveliness, the plum, orchid, and lotus also developed into metaphors, even cliches for feminine beauty. The multiple significations of the orchid are no doubt part of the reason underlying Ma Shuzhen's choice of this flower in her style name Xianglan, projecting both her special painting talent, her femininity, and her purity. Ironic as the last quality may seem. In an anthology of poetry that you will look at, of poetry by Courtesans compiled by Zhang in the late Ming, called the translation. He included 25 poems by Ma Shuzhen. This is an illustrated anthology, so it has pictures. It was printed in 1616, and so that was only a dozen years after Ma Shuzhen's death. And it includes, poems by Courtesans from early history, as early as the 10th dynasty in the 4th century, and up to his own time. Not surprisingly, most of Ma Xiongzhen's poems selected, so we have some examples of the titles here, accentuate the Courtesan's persona as desiring lover, addressing or thinking of her male client. You can tell this even from the title of the poems, right? Written to a particular male named, although I cannot find any information about who Zhang Youyi was. And this Wei Sheng, which is a personal name without a last name, so harmonizing. So you can see the social interaction, the poeticizing that go on, and then you have poems that simply are thinking of someone, but if you read the poem, you'll see that it is thinking of a male, absent male lover, and very suggestively written while lying on the poem, and then thoughts, right? Then they call attention, the last one especially, to the female persona in the bed in her boudoir, alone. Now, interestingly, the poem that was chosen for a pictorial illustration in this anthology depicts Ma Xiongzhen in her residence, which was a professional social space where she is entertaining, in this particular location, 3 male guests. And this was in her one-side garden, garden. And it was a scene of viewing peony flowers that were blooming, and so she had this little party with 3 male guests. She sits in the center, near the main table, not in the center, playing a zither set on a stand. I hope you can make out some of the details. That's her here. This is the zither, the qin, and these are the male guests at the main table. They have scholar caps and gowns, so it identifies their status. And then you see a couple of servants who are crossing the bridge, carrying things in their arms, probably games or more food and wine. And so on the right-hand side of the illustration is reproduced a couplet, 2 lines. So these 2 lines of her poem, written by Xiang Man, so with even her signature reproduced, right? So this picture is in fact an illustration of a set of 4 portraits. So 4 short, 4-line poems composed by her, entitled "On the Spring Day, the elders of the Poetry Club dropped by my little garden to admire the peonies. They each composed a quatrain to send to me. I responded by matching their rhymes." So she wrote one in response to each of them. The title of the poem provides the context. It was a cultured and convivial occasion in late spring. She had this peony viewing party. The guests are senior members of the Poetry Club, of which she was probably also a member. And she has invited them to admire the peonies blooming in her garden. So this set of poems gives a glimpse into her social network and the kind of amusement one would find at an elegant gathering. Each poem by Ma was written in response to one of the guests. The couplet printed on the illustration in the second is from the 3rd poem, harmonizing with Cheng Wu Wen, the name of one of the guests. And it captures the occasion and also provides the best cues for visual representation, and perhaps that's why it was chosen. I don't know whether you can see the cover, but maybe I quickly read it. By the flowing river, beside a stone bridge, is my cozy lodge. Flowers blossom in spring's warmth, gladdened by the visitors. In wine cups, the moon glides across the Qinhuai banks, while a gilded zither accompanies the skillful singer's song. So the illustration picks up specific references from the poem. Her residence by the Qianghai Canal, mentioned explicitly in the poem, the season of blooming peonies, the merriment of the Aviv party, and the blossoming flowers in the second line gestures to the peonies that have already been picked and put in a vase for the guests to smell and admire. The moving, so there's a moving image of the moon that's described in the third line. It suggests passing of time as the guests and the hostess enjoy themselves from daytime to evening. The poem paired with the illustration aptly projects a sense of Ma Shuzhen's multifaceted social and professional self, which involved different forms of entertainment, wine, food, music, song, and poetry. It's well known that Ma was also skilled at composing arias and writing drama. Unfortunately, none of her work in this area is extant. She trained the girls in her house, so she's established herself now as a madame, in a female opera troupe. And they not only performed to entertain guests, but Ma even traveled with them to give performances in urban centers in Jiangnan, such as Suzhou and Hangzhou. For her friend Wang Zhidong's 70th birthday, Ma Shuzhen rented a garden residence in Suzhou because he was a native of Suzhou. And she went there, rented a garden, organized a legendary month-long celebration with opera performances, revelry, and feasting. And this was in her 57th year, and she died a few months later after she returned to Nanjing. Most anthologies of women's poetry and writings published in the last decades of the Ming and early Qing include selections of courtesans' poetry, alongside those of elite and gentry women, although most anthologies would separate them into courtesans into a different chapter because of their different social status. And Ma Shuzhen's poems were selected and included in all of these late Ming anthologies. However, the selections in these later anthologies were very few, for each poem. They're huge anthologies, so maybe 3 or 4 each. And often they just recycle the same poems, so you see the same poems reprinted. So Ma Shuzhen published a collection of her poetry in 2 chapters entitled Master Xianglan's Collection. So Xianglan Zi, so she calls herself Master Author of the Xiang River. This collection was long thought to be lost, and only recently has it become known that a copy actually survives in the National Library in Taiwan. So, surely her own collection will provide a fuller and more complex perspective on her use of the arts for self-fashioning. So, we have very limited number that we can see now, just about 27 poems. More than her poetry, many of which are addressed to her clients and her patrons as expected, and particularly as selected by male anthologizers. Ma Shuzhen's famed orchid paintings are the quintessential expression and extension of her life. Indeed, they stand as a representation of herself. Her earliest extant painting is this composition of, so you have orchid, this here, and bamboo, and a rock. So bamboo, of course, is a very symbolic plant in China. Integrity, being straight, lasting through the winter, and the solidity and durability of the rock as well. So this was dated. This is dated 1563, when she was only 15 years old, and so she was already a talented young courtesan. She inscribed a poem on this painting up there, which we'll look at in a moment. She became known for using the technique here of what's called a double outline. in which a thin line is used to delineate each discrete blade of a leaf and each petal of the orchid. She also works in another mode of solid ink orchid that is more fluid in the brush stroke. And this painting is dated 1573 when she was 24. The painting bears 3 inscriptions, one by herself, one by someone named Ming, not otherwise known, and one by her friend Wang Zhidang. The Ma Shouzhen's calligraphy, which is on the first painting, which was 15, is already in a style that her lovely friend, biographer Wang Zhidang, would later describe as small and slanted, like flies' heads. Ma's poem on the orchid here reads as follows, and it's an interesting poem. She was only 15, I remember the age. Though companion to small grass, that's the orchid, right? It's a companion to small grass. Secret fragrance emanates from the valley. Its simple heart is entrusted to a gentleman, to be brushed by a clear breeze from time to time. So the poem alludes to common attributes of the orchid. It grows among weeds, but it's above weeds. It exudes fragrance. And is secluded in the valley away from the noise and dirt. The poem also emphasizes the orchid's feminine attributes by gesturing to its recognition and protection by a cultivated gentleman, the Junzi. Yeah, so she actually uses this term, superior person, the Junzi. And of course, Ma Shouzhen is here self-identifying with the orchid's purity and otherworldliness. At the same time, the language is discreetly suggestive of feminine longing and desire. The signature that follows the poem is Xianglan, and shows that the teenage courtesan was already using this style name to sign her paintings. Ma Shouzhen was also friends with another Suzhou artist called Zhou Tianqiu. And he's a well-known painter of orchids. So it's actually suggested Zhou may have tutored Ma Shouzhen in this specialty. On his masterpiece, which is dated 1580, a long handscroll in 10 sections in the collection of the National Palace Museum in Taipei. So you see the clusters of orchids, and then the inscriptions in the empty spaces in between. And Ma Shouzhen was the only woman invited to inscribe poems on this hand scroll. Zhou Tianqiu had about 60, because it's a very, very long, 60 male friends who inscribed. And she was 32 at the time, and in a sense, she's the honorary man invited to participate. So her participation in this, communal art form, this communal group of people, it clearly speaks to the recognition of her talent and stature as an equal in this male community of painters, poets, and calligraphers. Because at that time, it was the practice for male scholars, painters and poets, to inscribe on paintings by women, not the other way around. So now I just want to quickly look at, and also yeah, that's her the painting, that's her inscription there. Right. Yes, this is a reproduction I was able to get from the Palace Museum, so that shows that particular detail. So that's the color, the original color, whereas the other ones are taken from a catalog. I have to say it's attributed. I'm not sure about the authenticity, and it's in Canada, so that's the connection. It is in the University of Alberta Museum, and I had an opportunity to view it last year when I was there. What immediately strikes one about this long hand scroll is that it mounted two separate hand scrolls together onto two paintings from different times. And then it added the title at the beginning, which is 9 acres of orchids and fungus. Here, 9碗, 芝兰, right? 2 plants, fungus being the symbol for immortality. And it's followed by a long addition of colophons. So the first painting of orchid blocks of bamboo is dated 1576. The second one, mounted in order, but it's actually earlier. It was 10 years earlier, 1566, when I was 18. It is done in sort of light color and has, in addition to orchid blocks and bamboo, that you have the fungus, right? The dandelion grasses and some identified plants. So so we have these are closer details of the scroll. Another detail and this is a colophon by later collectors. Okay, so there are two interesting. This early work is identical to another scroll in the Indianapolis Museum, and it's dated 1604, the year that she died. So you have widely different dates. In 1988, the first exhibition of Chinese women's painting, called Views from J Terrace, was held at the Indianapolis Museum. In the catalog, curator James Robertson notes that the interpretation of Marshall Chen's paintings, quote, raises questions of authenticity common in the study of Chinese painting. Is one, both, or neither an authentic work by the artist in question? And then he continues. As with other examples of virtually identical images, the painting must have been of considerable importance to be so closely duplicated. For in China as in the West, imitation is a high form of flattery. The craze for painting by Marshall Chen was well established during her lifetime, and the composition represented by these paintings is one of the finest and most appealing of all those associated with her name. A significant development in the art and literary world after Marshall Chen's time was the rise of the cultivated women of the elite scholar literary class, who, since the late Ming, participated significantly in cultural production. The high regard in which Marshall Chen's paintings were held in subsequent periods were also shared by these remarkable gentry women. So not only men admired her work. Although specific examples are not so common, I located two instances that represent different and suggestive perceptions of and responses to Marshall Chen's self-representation in art. The first one is a poem by another woman poet, Li, from the second half of the, I think I have her dates here. That's her date. Li was a well-known woman poet in her own time. She had learning and also put her knowledge and literary skills to use as a tutor to young women, because her husband was not successful in the examination system, so the couple was rather poor. And so by this late Qing period, women were beginning to gain income in some way. So you see the title of the poem on the box. So she inspired about Marshall Chen's painting. So I won't take the time to read it. We can look at the text. The first line, look at it, is an allusion to the classic of poetry, the Shi Jing, one of the canons of Confucianism, in which some of the songs from the heirs of the state, were composed by women. These poems are classical examples that were used in later periods as justifications for women to write poetry, including Courtesans, why women should write poetry or could write. The second line refers to Ma Shouzhen's dual roles. A beautiful courtesan who puts on her makeup out of a fancy cosmetic box, and she was also an artist with her equipment of inkstone for grinding ink for painting. When this talented person has finished putting on her makeup, she is ready to paint. In Huima's imagination. These two implements made her boudoir parallel to a male scholar's study, which is a productive site of knowledge and art. The gist of Huima's poem goes further. She is saying that although the classical poetic tradition may have declined, poetry and the culture of refinement continue to flourish in the hands of a courtesan who was extremely elegant and beautiful in her boudoir, and her inkstone was close at hand for her to compose poetry and paint orchids. Huimari has identified Ma Shouzhen herself as an embodiment of the noble orchid that was a real compliment to Wang. And the second response is a fan, in the form of a fan, painted with orchids by gentle women who was copying the style of Ma Shouzhen. The painter's own inscription on the fan, on the right-hand side, reads, following the brush method of Xianglan at the studio for listening to incense and studying paintings. So that's this woman's own studio. The signature is the style name of the painter, record streaming stone. I can go through other information on this painter. In this fan painting, you can see how the painter tries to imitate the outline technique that we talked about, the double line that Ma Shouzhen uses in her orchids. Evidently, the effort of an amateur, this one, the orchids on the fan are painted in color, and the veins on the leaves are rendered as fine lines in a rather stiff manner, lacking the natural flow of Ma Shouzhen's brush strokes. Such examples show that even though Ma Shouzhen was a courtesan, she was held in high regard in her afterlife and maintained her reputation as an artist among elite ladies and men in later periods, which in this case further suggests that the orchid painting on the fan was done by a woman. Art historian Alan Johnston Lang notes that Yu Huai, in his memoir about the pleasure quarters in Nanjing, records that among the generation of courtesans who lived through the Manchu conquest, those who painted most often depicted orchids. Lang suggests that the courtesan's partiality to this flower, and I quote her, may have to do with its symbolic meanings of purity and purity exclusion, based on the poetry of Xu, and we have seen that in Ma Shouzhen's case. Although, of course, there's truth to this hypothesis, there are also other compelling reasons for this preference among the courtesan painters. One, I think, is expediency in the courtesan's trade. Painting in ink orchids can be relatively easy to learn. You will not excel in it, but you can do it. And orchid paintings can be dashed off quickly as gifts for clients and patrons. I would also suggest that Ma Shouzhen was instrumental in popularizing the painting of orchids in the pleasure quarters. Her success and reputation as a painter of orchids had a significant impact on the preferred subject matter of later courtesans' paintings. Through her famed orchid paintings, she re-signified this flower as an emblem of herself, and by extension of Ming courtesan culture. In concluding, I would like to emphasize again that Ma Shouzhen never married. She, yes, did ask Wang Zhideng to take her as a concubine, but after he saved her we don't know the details of it. There was, some ruffian criminal who tried to blackmail her or something. But he refused, right? So she never married. She lived to an old age, by the standards of the time, and had her own business of entertaining members of scholar literati class. This was highly unusual. She was obviously an enormously talented and also highly independent and entrepreneurial woman. A remarkable, accomplished woman in imperial China. She flourished at a time of relative openness in Chinese society. There are other episodes about her with young men being infatuated with her. We just kind of find it hard to imagine in sort of confusion context. But the late Ming had a relative libertarian period. After the Manchu conquest and establishment of the Qing dynasty in 1644, the authorities imposed a rigid form of Neo-Confucian orthodoxy, in which women were expected to be subordinate to men, or more accurately, economically and socially dependent on men in all phases of their lives, from birth to old age and death. It would be another 300 years or so until the late 19th and early 20th century before Chinese women would contest to become independent themselves and not be exceptions like Ma Su-chen in doing so. That's the end. Thank you.